Hi, my name is Skylar Rubin. I'm an undergraduate student at Elon University, and I have conducted detailed research on the topic of gerrymandering of election districts, the problems gerrymandering causes, and some proposed ways to resolve the issue. In American politics, the election system is meant to provide equal representation, free choice, and fair elections. However, the practice of gerrymandering occurs in nearly every state and alters that fair balance. Gerrymandering is the partisan and biased drawing of congressional districts based on computer-derived race and political affiliation statistics, rather than natural geographical boundaries and defined communities. This artificial alteration of districts allows for the political parties currently in power to influence the outcomes of future elections and, in turn, gain control of major state and national governing bodies. In order to eliminate this problem, simple yet effective measures, such as independent redistricting committees, normalized borders, or multi-member districts, need to be adopted. Historically, redistricting with partisan political intent has occurred for over 200 years. The term gerrymandering comes from the practices of the early 1800s governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry. To further the prospects for his Democratic-Republican Party, he and his administration passed a law that drew boundaries in a very non-conventional way. This district was thought to look like a salamander, thus giving gerrymandering its eternal name. Over time, gerrymandering has become increasingly routine in elections. Most state districts have been affected due to constantly increasing partisan political polarization. When an official census of the United States population is taken once each decade, our total population is divided into our 435 congressional districts. Each state receives a specific number of seats in the House of Representatives, sometimes gaining or losing seats to other states based on population changes. All states losing or gaining seats must then redraw their congressional district boundaries to reflect the new number of districts. The redrawing of the districts is when the mischief begins. For example, if a state is majority Republican, Republican lawmakers will redraw the new state districts to exclude as many potential Democrat election winners as possible. There are two main tactics used in gerrymandering: packing and cracking. Let's say that the dots represent all the people in a state, red being Republicans and blue Democrats. Packing concentrates like-minded supporters of a particular political party into one singular district to give them an easy victory in that one district, but sharply decreasing their voting power and influence in all other districts. The second strategy, cracking, applies the opposite technique, done by breaking up a voting block and scattering it into multiple districts in order to weaken the block. This splits up communities that have similar social, ethnic, and economic interests and prohibits them from electing any one representative anywhere. Both of these redistricting strategies create unfair groupings that hinder citizens with certain beliefs and needs from getting the full political representation they deserve. The issue of gerrymandering has been discussed more urgently in recent years, as in-state congressional district lines look as though they've been drawn with no rationality, and the state's political affiliation can be easily guessed before an election takes place. The gerrymandering controversy has gone to the Supreme Court multiple times, but the justices have not been able to come to an all-encompassing conclusion. The last time the Supreme Court made a pronouncement on this issue was as recently as June of 2019. It was declared that partisan gerrymandering issues must be resolved by the state governments and not the federal courts. This advanced no significant resolution to the issue, as most people think that the state governments remain quite biased and are the biggest part of the problem. After conducting research about gerrymandering and its origins and consequences, I have come up with several possible solutions to help this politically charged topic. The first is proportional representation, where political parties would make lists of their legislative candidates for the whole state, then seats would be assigned to all parties according to the party's percentage of the total vote throughout the state. This would make it so that there is no individual districts to pack or crack, and every vote in every part of the state would count for the total of your preferred party's list. One drawback of this solution is that the state becomes one large electoral district, and the flavor of local candidates and local issues in subregions of a state become lost in the whole. The second possible solution involves the creation process of the election maps themselves. There could be redistricting commissions made up of experts and/or independent people. The commission would hold bipartisan hearings to draw fair district lines, which would in turn create a state with more fair competition. A potential drawback of this solution would be finding totally unbiased people to complete this task without party influence. A third potential way to solve the gerrymandering problem would include drawing the districts in contiguous shapes. If districts followed established city or county lines, the regular block-shaped districts would not include crazy pipe or peninsula shapes to crack or pack the voters. A potential drawback to this plan would not be taking into account the specific communities and their independent needs, as counties and cities with disparate issues could be lumped together. I named my fourth and final potential solution multi-member districts. This fix would create larger legislatures with multiple member districts so that any narrowing losing voter block does not result in zero representation. For example, a 5-member district might have 3 representatives from one party and 2 from another after a close election, rather than one party dominating the district with only the one representative. This would result in the House having a deeper roster of candidates and several times as many members, therefore better representing our diverse electorate and their various political viewpoints. State electoral district boundaries would not need to be changed, even with the changing population, as more representatives would just be added if districts grew. If this solution were implemented, not only would more citizen perspectives be heard, but there would no longer be unfair one-sided district drawing practices. Political outcomes would more directly reflect what the people want and need, avoiding much of the partisan polarization that comes from one-dimensional safe districts. This small yet monumental change to the legislative branch would be extremely beneficial in resolving gerrymandering and would give the public a less polarized representation across the government. Citizens of the United States have watched the important centrist and bipartisan ideas and opinions slowly and systematically removed from their political spectrum by the creation of one-sided gerrymandered, safe districts by powerful legislative insiders on both extremes of the ideological divide. We must rally to reclaim rational and fair electoral contests and districts across the country, to be sure that the will of the people, and not the will of the government insiders and incumbents, is heard from the formulation of national policy at this critical time.